If you are the woman who feels like she is constantly going and there is no time for you to relax, or you have fallen victim to hustle culture, this is going to be the perfect podcast episode for you, because on today's episode of the No Bullshit Manifestation Show, we are talking about doing less to receive more. Yes, you heard me right. Doing less to receive more. This was such a interesting and far off concept for me when I first started to work on it in my own personal manifestation and development journey. But now that I'm in a place where I have cultivated the things that we're going to be talking about inside of today's podcast episode, I truly am able to move and operate in the world where I am doing less, but continuing to receive the same level of abundance that I was when I was hustling my ass off, and more abundance than I was when I was hustling my ass off. So if this sounds like something you need in your life, definitely make sure you stick with us to the end of the podcast, because this is going to be packed full of wisdom on how you can actually start to embody the energy that will help you attract and manifest more of what you want without having to work so damn hard for it all of the time. What's up, and welcome to the No Bullshit Manifestation Show, the podcast that demystifies all of the nonsense that surrounds manifestation and gives you a realistic view of what it's like to be on a personal, professional, and spiritual growth journey. I'm your host, Kat Kozad, manifestation and money mindset expert, and I'm so happy you're here. Let's fucking do this thing. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the No Bullshit Manifestation Show. It is a gloomy, rainy day in New York City. And by gloomy, I don't really mean gloomy. I absolutely love rainy days, which I think I said that on the podcast a few weeks ago. Can't remember though. If I didn't, I said it on my Instagram story. But I just absolutely love days like today because it really cultivates this energy of inspiration and creativity inside of me. And it also reminds me of England. And if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see over the weekend I booked a trip to go to London in 2 weeks' time from now. So you'll be hearing me on the podcast in London in about 2 weeks' time. And I just quickly want to talk on this because if you would have told me 4 years ago, right as I was starting my intentional manifestation journey, that I would be able to, one, have the time freedom and the location freedom to be able to pick up and just book an international trip on 2 weeks' notice. But then also, two, to have the money to be able to book an international trip on 2 weeks' notice, I would have thought that you were lying to me. I would have been like, absolutely not. I haven't been able to travel abroad in years because I don't have any of the resources or time or availability to be able to do that. And this is truly the power of being able to go on an intentional manifestation journey, to do the healing work, to really dive into your inner workings, to do the somatic healing, trauma healing, whatever it may be that is that necessary step in your path to get to where you want to be. This is the power of it. And this is just like a very small example of it. And I know that all of you that do follow me over on Instagram, you see often the different testimonials that I share from the women who have been a part of my programs, the Abundant AF Babe Academy, and soon to be the Source. And this is truly like everything that they have manifested, everything that they have created and shifted for themselves in such a short period of time is evidence of what is possible when you dive in and do the healing work. So as we are diving into today's podcast episode, I really just want to give you that reminder of the fact that anything and everything that you want in this life is possible for you. The reason that you have desires in the first place, the reason that you see the things that you see in your life and you feel this very intense pull towards them, is because your soul incarnated into this human body to make it happen. You are here on purpose. The odds of you being born in the first place are so small. So truly know that literally the reason that you are here is for something. It's for your heart's desires. The reason you have those things is because your soul knows you are capable of creating them. So take those steps. Allow yourself to do the hard thing, aka do the inner work, or hire the coach or whatever it may be, so that you can get to that place that you want to be in your life. And with that being said, I want to talk about this in a way that you maybe don't always hear in the world of personal development. We're going to be talking about receiving more by doing less. Oftentimes in the world of personal development, you'll hear do more, do more, do more, do more, 10x it, hustle, grind, make it happen, all of those things. And while I believe there may be some sort of season for that, especially if you've never hustled in your life before, I think it's really important to understand the discipline and the drive that it takes to hustle. But I don't think that hustling is a sustainable model for anybody to get what they want in life. And therefore, there comes a time where you truly have to learn more so about how to be and attract what you want versus do to get what you want. And that doesn't mean that you're not going to be doing anything, because we are human beings and we live in a world in which requires us to do things. But embodying the energy that helps you actually attract and manifest more of what you want then allows you to do less to get to what you want. So we're going to be breaking this podcast episode down into 3 different things. And in those 3 different things, it's going to be different mindset reframes, energy shifts for you to get into the embodiment of doing less to receive more. And as we dive into these 3 things, what I want to kickstart this conversation with is the fact that this is what the feminine energy is all about. If you've been here with me over the past few months listening to the No Bullshit Manifestation Show, you will have heard me talk a lot about the feminine energy. And the reason for that being is because the feminine energy is the energy of receiving. It is the energy of being. Whereas, again, a lot of the times in our world, what we are used to is the masculine energy of going, doing, creating, logic, structure. And there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, we need it. But when it comes to doing less to receive more, it requires you to learn how to cultivate that feminine energy inside of yourself, come back home to the feminine energy inside of you, and embody it so that you're magnetizing more of what you want, as opposed to pushing and forcing and manipulating to get what you want. And again, I'm going to say there is a time, there is a season for that. I have been through it. Y'all have heard me talk about it. The seasons of hustle. In those seasons of hustle, I truly believe that you learn so much about what you're capable of. It really stretches you to your edges of how much you truly can do, how much you truly can push and force and make things happen in your life. There's nothing wrong with that. Again, I'm just talking about it in a different way because I don't believe it's sustainable. You cannot push and push and push and push and push and keep getting the same result. Eventually, you are going to run out of energy and you're not going to be able to push anymore. A few weeks back, I recorded a podcast episode about burnout. And this is the byproduct of what happens when you keep pushing, 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 and embodying nothing but that masculine energy. And you're not allowing yourself to really get into and cultivate this strong magnetic receivership from the feminine energy. So everything we're going to be talking about in this podcast episode truly has so much to do with the feminine energy, getting into that feminine energy, embodying that feminine energy, because that is what is going to really allow you to magnetize more by doing less. So with that being said, first thing I want to talk about is healing your ability to receive. I know this may sound weird because when we logically think about it, we're like, yeah, duh, I want to receive. Like, give me, I'm ready to receive, I'm open to receive. You hear so much about this, especially with like affirmations, TikTok videos, YouTube videos, whatnot that are out there that talk about receiving. It's like, duh, I want to receive. Let me receive. But I want you to slow down right now and ask yourself, how open am I actually to receiving? when somebody offers to help me with something, when somebody offers to pay for something of mine, when the world is giving me opportunities to receive, when I am in my essence by myself, am I allowing myself to receive the energy, the presence, the abundance of the environment that I'm in? Or am I turning that down? So take this moment and really just reflect on that for a second. When you're presented with the opportunity to receive, do you receive? Because this is one of the most common things that I see with the women that I work with. Oftentimes, prior to really starting to dig into the inner work and be on this journey that we go on together in my coaching containers, they will feel so frustrated with their circumstances because it feels like no abundance is coming in. They feel like they're not supported by their partners or their friends or their family, the people in their lives, or it'll feel like money's just not showing up for them. These different circumstances in their lives feel like an uphill battle. And then I ask them to take a moment to recognize whether they're allowing people to support them, whether they're allowing money to support them, whether they're allowing life to support them, or if they feel as though they have to do it all themselves. Feel as though if they're not there figuring it out, doing it for themselves, showing up with that hyper independence, then they believe that it's just not going to happen for them. If that is you, then I want to point out that you most likely have some healing to do surrounding your relationship to receiving. And if I'm being honest, I think that this is one of the most major areas that most people have some work to do, of learning how to receive, because whether it be a social narrative or something that you learned growing up, we're often taught that if you are not working hard, if you are not putting so much energy and effort out into the world, then you are not worthy of receiving. I know that for me growing up, one of the things that I witnessed, not in my mom's words to me or not how she treated me, but in how she treated herself, was that if she wasn't constantly doing something or ticking something off the to-do list or whatever it may be, that she didn't feel worthy of receiving. So she worked hard all the time. She was constantly running around the house. She was constantly doing things. And she would even say out loud to me that until she did something, she couldn't have something else. So until she cleaned the entire house, then she wasn't allowed to go out and ride her bike. Or until she did whatever it may be, something for me and my brother, then she wasn't allowed to eat. And this really set up this subconscious narrative for me of, okay, in order for me to be worthy of receiving one of my basic needs, or in order for me to be worthy of receiving something that is going to fill up my cup, I must work for it. I must be constantly efforting in order to receive. And again, I talk about myself a lot in these podcast episodes to give you an example, but the goal of that is for you to reflect back onto yourself and look at, okay, where have I been embodying that for myself? So for you, where have you been embodying that for yourself? Where have you been setting these conditions for yourself of, I am not worthy of receiving until XYZ. I am not allowed to have what I want until this condition is met. Because so many of us are doing this, especially on a subconscious level. It's not this conscious thing of like, okay, today I cannot have XYZ until I complete XYZ. It's more so this subconscious narrative that's running in the back burner because of either social narratives that you've learned growing up or something that you saw in your direct environment. And starting to really pick through that, pull through that, and uproot those weeds that are creating those conditions and those limitations in your life is then going to create the space for you to actually start to understand how you feel about receiving and how you can start to get comfortable with receiving. Because most likely, if you haven't been in this space of, okay, receiving is a fun, nice, easy flowing thing for me, then receiving at first is going to feel really uncomfortable, even if you want it. One of the examples that I like to give for this is if you are used to having to effort so hard for money, then if money was to show up easily and effortlessly in your life, you'd probably feel uncomfortable about it. You'd probably think there's some sort of catch or trick that you are missing that you feel as though you're going to have to meet in order for you to receive that money. Or it's just going to feel super fucking uncomfortable. You may not feel worthy of it. So really starting to, like I said, navigate through and understand where this comes from for you in the first place so that you can get to the root of that and start to heal that root, start to pull that weed out of the ground. And for anybody who's new to the podcast or new to my teachings, one of the analogies that I like to give is imagine your mind was a garden. If you have not started the inner work, or if you've not started to identify your limiting beliefs and heal from those limiting beliefs, it's kind of like your garden is full of weeds. And instead of just like trimming the weeds down by ignoring them or forcing some affirmations on them, some gratitude on them, whatever it may be, what I like to help my clients do is actually get to the core, to the root of that limiting belief and pull it up out of the ground so that there's actually space in the ground for you to plant the seed of whatever it is that you're choosing to be true about yourself and about your life. So specifically in this situation, planting that seed of receivership, planting that seed of it being safe, it being okay for you to just exist, and by your existence, receive. That is enough. You do not have to do any more work or validate yourself anymore in order to receive. You just have to be. And with time, with consistency, with showing up and tending to and watering that seed, then this big, beautiful flower grows. And that's that new belief that is rooted and grounded into your being, which then shifts your vibration, raises your vibration, and allows you to naturally start to attract and manifest more of what you want. Because a lot of the times when it comes to what you see out there for manifestation and law of attraction online, you'll hear about all of these like little tips and tricks of how to raise your vibration, and by raising your vibration, manifesting what you want. But if you want long-lasting, sustainable results in your manifestations, long-lasting, sustainable change in your manifestations, that requires you to actually do the groundwork, to clear out those limiting beliefs that have been lowering your vibration in the first place, so that then once they are removed, you have this naturally high vibration. You are naturally vibrating in the energy of abundance, and because of that, just calling in more of what you want into your life without having to effort for it so much. So, like I said, really healing your relationship with receiving, understanding what your relationship with receiving is in the first place, and starting to assess that so that you can move and operate in the world in a way that allows you to just be, and by being, receive more of what you want. And before we go any further, I want you to know that if this message is resonating with you so far, this would be the perfect reason to join my brand new feminine embodiment program, The Source. For anybody who hasn't heard about The Source yet, or who is on the fence about The Source, enrollment is open until September 30th. So there's only about a week and a half left in enrollment for you to join The Source. And inside of The Source, this is the most hands-on program I have ever run. There is going to be 12 full weeks of group coaching with me, as well as one-on-one coaching. And this is something that you do not get in any of my other programs unless you are a one-on-one client, is that one-on-one support where we are actually diving deep together in your own personalized, unique calls to help you understand what has been blocking you and stopping you from being fully embodied in your feminine energy so that you can live a more inspired, intuitive, exciting, playful, pleasurable, magnetic life. So inside of the source, you have that group coaching, that one-to-one coaching with me, as well as an online platform and an online support community with all of the other women who are a part of the program. And this is going to be kicking off at the beginning of October. So again, you have only about a week and a half left to join the source, but you can click the link down below in the show notes to claim your spot right now in the source to ensure that you finally heal from these things that have been stopping you from being in your magnetic feminine energy. And if you have any questions about the source whatsoever, you can send me a message over on Instagram. My Instagram handle is @CatCozadCoaching, but you can also find that down below in the show notes. So feel free to send me a DM. I get back to all of my messages on Instagram and want to make sure that you feel like this is the best, most supportive decision for you, for your life, and for your feminine energy. But with that being said, diving back into this, when we are talking about doing less to receive more, what this means is two additional things. Like I said, we're going to talk about three things. The first one was healing your relationship with receiving. Second thing is learning to work smarter, not harder. And I'm sure so many of you have heard this before, but this was truly such a game changer for me because when I first started my intentional manifestation journey, like I said, I was hustling. I was hustling my ass off. And now looking back in retrospect, I can see that I was hustling because I was working harder, not smarter. And now that I have learned how to work smarter, not harder, and channel the most potent energy that I possibly can into the time that I am doing, and also into the time that I am just being, then that allows me to receive more by doing less. So one of the things that I say all the time here on the podcast and also to my clients is it's not so much the action, but the energy behind the action. And what I mean by this is that if you are doing, going, hustling, but the energy behind that is not potent, strong, full of faith, full of intention, then that energy is only going to do so much because it's not the action, but the energy behind the action. You doing a ton of stuff to try and receive more without that strong, potent, intention-based action will only move the needle a little bit. Versus being able to get very intentional, be very deliberate, have very focused energy into what you are showing up and doing, and then doing that thing, that is going to move the needle forward so much more than just hustling. Intention is everything when it comes to manifestation. And this is something that I think so many people get so far away from just because we get used to what is easy. And it's easy to just do all the time. It is so much easier to just do all of the time and not be intentional with your energy than it is to slow down, check in, get in touch with where your energy, where your vibration, where your thoughts, where your emotions, where your physical state is at, assessing that, adjusting that to a place that feels like you are in alignment with yourself and you feel really solid and really faith-based, and then moving from that. And for me personally, so when I first started my intentional manifestation journey, like I said, I was in that season of hustle because I truly just didn't understand this yet. So I was moving so quickly, doing so many things, and really reached this place of burnout, like I talked about in a few podcast episodes back. But I was working like 10, 12-hour days, sometimes 14-hour days, and I was receiving, yes, but I was hustling to receive. Whereas with time, with consistency, with refining my energy over and over and over again and understanding myself on a deeper level, truly getting in touch with my intuition, getting in touch with my soul, and understanding my inner workings, I now, when it comes to like actually working, and working is not everything when it comes to receiving, I have this deep, deep belief in the fact that everything in my life gives me an ROI. And I'll break that down in a second. But to just finish out this first thought, I now, on an average week, I would say work anywhere between 20 to 30 hours. And obviously, if I'm feeling more inspired, I will put more time and energy and effort into things because that inspiration is leading and guiding me. But I don't hustle in the way that I used to in order to receive. And so much of that, yes, has to do with the time and consistency that I have put into things. But I speak to that because this is the reality for anyone. I truly haven't been on this journey for that long. And I started to see results into it so quickly because I was so intentional about it. Once I had really like hit that first stage of burnout, I was like, fuck no, I never want to experience that again. And immediately started to dive deeper into how I could be even more intentional with my energy, more so than anything, and then my actions. So learning how to work smarter, not harder. And also tying back into that little bit that I was saying just a moment ago, I have this deep belief in the fact that everything I do in my life gives me an ROI. For anybody who's listening who's like, what the fuck is an ROI? Because that was me when I first heard the word or the acronym, but it means return on investment. So everything I do in life gives me a return on investment. So that means the times that I go out and have fun with friends and spend money on dinner and all of the different things that I'm doing while I'm out, I'm going to get a return on that. That means that the time that I'm sitting down on my couch watching Netflix, recharging, resetting, I'm going to get a return on that. That means that when I'm laying in bed and reading or journaling or going on a hot girl walk or whatever it may be, I'm going to get a return on that. And that's very contradictory to what we are taught societally, which is that in order for you to get a return on anything, you must be working. You must be doing, you must be hustling, you must be moving the needle forward in some sort of way that makes logical and practical sense. But fuck that. If you want to only follow what is logical and practical, get ready to have a logical and practical life. If you want an illogical, incredible, intuitive, inspired life, it requires you to have an unconventional belief system that truly you can get an ROI on anything that you do. But when it comes to all of this, when it comes to the manifestation process, when it comes to feminine embodiment, when it comes to rewiring the structure of the subconscious mind, it's not just a matter of like saying that to yourself and hoping that you'll eventually believe it. It's doing this work that I've been talking about throughout this podcast episode of digging deeper into the inner workings of your mind, doing the subconscious reprogramming, doing the somatic healing, doing the trauma healing so that you truly can anchor into the belief that everything in your life you get an ROI on. So, like I said, this is something that I've been doing for years now, and I truly, with every ounce of my being, believe that I get an ROI on every single thing that I do in my life, and therefore I get an ROI on every single thing that I do in my life. Really allows me to receive more by doing less. Receiving more by doing less. That is the name of the game. That is what you are after, especially if you're wanting to be in your feminine energy. Because when you can be in that energy of receiving more by doing less, that allows you to just naturally flow with life's rhythm and know that whatever ebb you're in, whatever season you're in, you will continue to receive because of that. And that ties us into our third thing, which is cultivating deep, deep trust in yourself, in your intuition, and in the universe, God, source, spirit, whatever it may be for you, a higher power. Because this is something that you don't necessarily have to cultivate if you're just in the doing energy all of the time. If you are just in that doing energy all of the time, hustling, moving, shaking, forcing, making it happen in your life, you don't have to cultivate deep trust, because you know that if you force enough, you can probably get the result that you want. If you push hard enough, if you hustle hard enough, you can probably get the result that you want. That doesn't require you to have faith. Whereas being in this energy of receiving more by doing less, that requires faith. That requires patience. And that is the importance and the beauty of being embodied in your feminine energy, is that you are in touch with that faith. You are in touch with the divine through your intuition, through your connection to God, the universe, source, spirit, again, whatever it may be for you. Because you know that in that energy, no matter what period of time passes, you are still going to get what you want. You are still going to receive. And that you don't have to hustle your ass off in order to make it happen. Do you maybe have to do some things here and there? Yes, absolutely. But it's coming from the energy of inspiration and expansion versus the ego and feeling as though you have to do something. If you feel like you have to do something, that is coming from the energy of lack. That is coming from the energy of fear. That is coming from the energy of distrust. Whereas if you are choosing to do something, if you are choosing to receive more by doing less, that is coming from the energy of abundance. That is coming from the energy of faith. And again, a lot of the times people do not cultivate their relationship with the divine or with faith because the divine isn't always going to give you instant gratification. Sometimes it might. That's usually when you're very tapped in, tuned into your connection to a higher power. But when you are starting to build this muscle of faith inside of yourself, that requires patience. It's not going to give you instant gratification, and that's going to essentially put you in this position where you have to anchor down into faith. You have to build that muscle. And this is something that I again talk about a lot on the podcast, but also with my clients, is that when you are building faith, it's kind of like going to the gym. You have to continue to show up to the gym, put those reps in to see that with time, you are building that muscle. It's getting stronger. Whereas at first, it probably feels uncomfortable. It probably feels like you are shaky in it. But you continue to go back to really get to the place where you feel strong within it. And faith truly is a muscle. And muscles can only be built when pressure is applied. So allowing yourself to really anchor down during those moments where it feels like, well, I could be forcing, I could be hustling, I could be pushing, I could be doing to get the result that I want. And slowing yourself down, settling yourself down, anchoring yourself down into this belief of magnetism, of receiving more by doing less, of your feminine energy, of the belief in the fact that everything that you do in this life gives you an ROI, of working smarter, not harder, and receiving because of that. It may feel super uncomfortable, but like I keep on saying, with that time and with the consistency of showing up in that vibration, you set the new energetic standard of what you're available for. This is such a journey that I've been on over the past few years of moving out of that super hyper independent masculine energy into this very soft, trusting feminine energy where I truly know that I will always get either what I want or something greater by remaining in the vibration of what it is that I desire. And this can be the reality for you as well. I know I said it earlier in the podcast episode, but this is exactly what I am going to be teaching you and helping you with inside of the source. This is exactly what we are diving into together, how you can truly just cultivate that deep feminine essence inside of yourself. Come home to that deep feminine essence because it's nothing that you don't already know. It's just remembering it. It's just coming home to yourself. And throughout these 12 weeks together in the group coaching and in the one-on-one coaching, I'm going to help you re-spark, reignite that feminine essence inside of yourself so that you can overcome burnout, so that you can feel more pleasure in your day-to-day lives, so that you can receive more by doing less, so that you can truly just live from this space of inspiration and intuition in your life. This feminine embodiment program is unlike anything else that is out there on the internet for coaching, and I'm so excited for it because I truly believe that this is the way forward for every woman who is wanting to live a life that is more authentic to her. So again, you can click the link down below in the show notes to join the source. And if you have any questions, definitely send them my way. But I hope that this podcast episode was helpful for you, and I will chat with you on the next one.